hello. I'm at the Qantas Founders Museum.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm with the lovely Sarah, and we're standing in front of a very, very unique car, a 1919 Model T. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And why is the 1919 Model T important to Qantas?
So it was the car they used to take up to Darwin when they did the trip, figuring out what they were actually going to do, how they were going to establish the airline, and made quite the trip. And we've got a little video in the corner.
Now this car, I believe they were setting up runways for London to Australia, or was it London to Sydney air race? Was that right?
Sounds like you know more than me.
I pretend I do, but I actually don't.
Oh.
I just bought the cap to make myself look official.
For me to go, yeah, that's right.
So they used this car. They set up a whole series of runways. I was looking at one of the presentations before.
Yeah.
And so this is what got them thinking, because both of the pilots that set up Qantas Airways started flying in World War One.
Right. Yeah.
You're meant to be telling me.
I don't know too much about this car, to be honest. I run the tours on the planes.
Okay, let's talk about the planes. There are two major planes out there. Yeah. There's a Qantas 707.
Yeah, and a 747.
Okay, so let's start with the 707. The 707 was one of 13 B 707s.
This one being number one, so the first jet registered in Australia.
And the most famous owner owns number 13, and that's John Travolta.
Yeah, so he's actually the self-appointed Qantas ambassador.
John
Travolta, yeah.
Has John Travolta been to this museum?
Yes, I do believe he has, and I'm pretty sure, don't hold me against this, but there is talk of him coming back for the 100th year in 2020.
So next year he'll be back? That next year's 2020.
Let's fingers crossed, but I'm not too sure if he will.
You heard it first here on the Unique Cars and Parts YouTube channel, of which there's only three people watch it.
Okay.
And I can't even get my mum to watch my...
What I'm saying is wrong, it doesn't matter?
No, it's only my son and my brother, the only two that watches this. So
okay, there we go.
You could just make it up.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's coming, he's going to do lots.
They're shooting a whole movie here.
Yeah, Grease the Third's going to be in this building.
Is Liv coming out as well?
Yeah, Olivia Newton-John. She'll be doing
It's going to be sensational. That there's quite a story, a backstory to that 707, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. It's quite the story from start to when it landed here in Longreach. Yeah.
So it started off as a Qantas jet. And from what you were telling me, it was the government, Qantas were partly government owned, and they wanted it to be called the City of Canberra because it was going to be the big headline maker when it arrived in Australia. But then that particular plane had an issue, and then they had to rename another one.
Oh, so this one actually, they just rolled it back into the factory gates to figure out a way of putting on that V-pod. So it wasn't the first to come to Australia in that sense. Okay. So that's why it had to be renamed. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so is that officially the City of Canberra?
Yes, yeah. First jet ever registered in Australia, City of Canberra.
And once it's did service for Qantas, it went on to have a rather checkered history, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did.
So, now, okay, let me see if I can remember what you told. This is to testing me on what I remember of your tour. Yeah. It was then bought by Tiger Airways, but not the Tiger Airways we know, a Tiger Airways company in the US. Yeah. And they decked it out after they bought it off Qantas to be for the high-flying Saudi and Arab nations because of the oil. They were making so much money on oil, they thought it would appeal to them. So they decked it out in gold and...
Yeah, so basically they didn't buy it off of Qantas. They bought it off of a company called Pacific Western Airlines up in Canada, and then they decided to convert it from just your standard passenger aircraft into what they called a luxury yacht on wings. So yeah, a
luxury yacht, and they had gold. It had full of gold trim.
Yeah.
So it was designed really to appeal to a sheikh.
Yeah, so they knew the 1981 Paris Air Show is coming along. All your potential buyers were going to be your Muslim, Saudi, Arabic, anyone really from those Middle Eastern cultures with a lot of money to spend on lavish jets. So yeah, that's when they did deck it out with all your teak and walnut interior, solid gold interior, all gold lining, and all your...
And the map is embedded into the teak. I saw that. There's a bed. It's almost presidential what you've got, even though they've taken a lot of the stuff out. It's almost presidential in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
Except they made one fatal mistake because given their target audience, they used leather. But what sort of leather did they use?
They covered the entire interior in pigskin leather.
Pigskin leather. So they had, how many buyers were interested in this particular plane once they'd done that?
0.
0. So, and how much did they spend on decking it out like that?
So they took it from a $4.25 million price tag to a $51 million price tag, took it to the 1981 Paris Air Show, and no one wanted it.
0. Zippo. Thanks to the pigskin leather hide.
Yeah.
So then what happened to the plane? It then was bought by an Australian?
Oh, so he was from the States, but had just bought a bit of land in Perth, wanted a way of travelling in between Perth and the States. So bought the plane. Now, we weren't told how much he did pay for it, but we do know not $51 million because, he actually went extremely bankrupt. And, Tiger Air went bankrupt, and ceased to exist as a company after that sale that they made with Airmark.
Okay, and so then the plane was purchased and put into chartered service, wasn't it?
Oh, so yeah, anyone who would lease the plane was able to from Airmark, yeah.
And the famous family that leased that old Qantas jet that has now had a bit of a rather checkered history were the
Jackson 5. Yeah.
The Jackson 5,
Yeah.
and this was before Michael went at it on his own. He was the Jackson boys,
Yeah.
5 of them.
Yeah.
That's why they were called the Jackson 5. And Michael particularly you told me Michael really liked that plane so much that he wanted to buy it, but there was a problem with that aircraft.
Yeah, so just during the time, the Pratt & Whitney engines that were on the aircraft were just far too noisy due to that, grounded due to noise restrictions, so he couldn't buy it, in the end.
Yeah, so Michael just made the decision, if you can't use the jet, there's not much point having it because the engines were just too damn noisy, and there was curfews placed on those engines, weren't there?
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Okay, so it was then bought by, Aerospace,
British Aerospace. Yeah.
British Aerospace, and they wanted the Pratt & Whitney engines because they'd come up with a clever way of making them quieter, hadn't they?
Yeah, so it's called your hush kit. So they fit in the hush kit, and then, you were able to use the jet engines after that.
But Michael Jackson had lost interest in it by that stage.
Oh, well, by then they had new plans. They took out the pigskin leather, converted it to now be able to sell off to people who are against using pigskin leather. Yeah.
Made it more globally appealing.
Yes.
It was halal certified, we might say.
Yeah, you could say that.
So the Qantas Museum has got the first halal certified 707 sitting out there.
Sounds like it.
It's excellent. Now, how did Qantas, well, the museum here, come to get their hands on this 707? Because at this stage it's still in doing charter work.
Yeah, so it was used by your Saudi ambassador to the United States after they popped in that hush kit, and he used it up until the year 2000.
So the Saudi ambassador used it, but once they got rid of the pigskin.
Yeah, definitely had to take out that pigskin.
Yep. And so after that, it was mothballed for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, so basically British Aerospace popped it in open storage, so let nature take its course on the aircraft, hopefully that it was going to have it break down in the weather, but luckily enough for us, it stayed in very good condition.
They were hoping it was going to rust away, but they put it in a salt-laden environment, which was in
Southend-on-Sea, at the mouth of the Thames in England.
Okay, at the mouth of the Thames on England, and they thought it was just going to rust away and it'd be the end of their worries. But it rained there. What you were saying, 98,
80 to 90% of the time, yeah.
So the constant rain was washing the salt off.
Yeah.
So it actually stayed in pretty good nick.
Yeah, it sure did.
And then it was flown out to this particular museum.
Yeah, so we ended up winning it in the back and forth negotiation, paying a total of £1 plus VAT for the plane, obviously with strings attached, but in the end did come out here in 2007 after some work was done to it.
If Michael Jackson had waited, he would have got a bargain.
Yeah, he would have.
But look, I love that, but there's another very interesting plane here. Well, there's actually plenty of them, including a DC-3 that's out there.
Yeah, so we got the DC-3.
And that was originally a C-47 military aircraft?
Yeah, so built as a C-47 and then converted to take passengers as your DC-3.
And as I just found out, the only difference between a C-47 and a DC-3 is that they put extra doors in the back.
Yeah, they just chuck on one extra door, becomes your DC-3-SIC-3G.
Okay. You remembered it too.
Yeah.
You're doing really well, Sarah. Okay, and you've also got, what's the one that we've just got? It's on the cap, Catalina, isn't it?
Catalina, yeah.
And there was I just heard, some Qantas pilots, brave pilots during World War II, were doing doing covert operations, sending mail, microfiche mail and communications all the way up to Singapore.
Yeah.
And as they sent this stuff up to Singapore, they couldn't let their family, friends, anyone know what they were up to.
Yeah.
So they had to keep it all on the QT.
Yeah.
And they were getting given white flowers as a sign of them being,
White feathers, yeah.
White feathers, and the white feathers symbolised that they were chickens.
Cowards and your chickens, yeah.
And yet they were doing one of the most dangerous operations during the war.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate for them, but they weren't allowed to talk about it as it was top secret, and they had to just pretend like it wasn't happening. But
so that's well worth having a look at. But the one that I really enjoyed was the 747, and that is named the City of
Bunbury.
The City of Bunbury, but we had to rename it before because we're Team Wang, and we've named it the Lady Wang.
Oh,
yes.
Well, I'll let our Qantas engineers know that next time they come in, do a bit of service on the plane, we'll give it a new spray.
We've already crossed out the City of Bunbury. We've put Lady Wang on the side.
Oh, okay. Well, that saves the trouble then.
You laughed when I said I was going to do it. You didn't think I would do it.
No, I believe you.
Okay, so you took me on a trip out on the Lady Wang. And I got to walk on the wing.
Yes.
And I got to sit in the cockpit. We took it for a short ride, didn't we? We got her up in the air.
Yeah.
It's a fully operating 747 here at Longreach. It needs 2 kilometres to take off and land. You didn't know that, but when I was behind the controls, we measured it out. I said it's good to go.
Good to go.
It's good to go.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
It was a very, very short flight.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have been sleeping.
You were
something else.
You were shitting yourself.
I think I was. I would have been.
When the number 4 jet caught fire, you didn't know what to do, did you?
No.
And you thought I didn't, but I got the extinguisher going.
Exactly.
We were safe.
Yeah, thank you for that.
That's all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard the Flying Wang. Let's see. I thought now we've been trying to drive a $500 car around Australia. Let's try and fly a $500 airplane to London. And so, as you can see, I'm the captain. I've got 2 passengers. No one dared come with me on the Wang Flying Special. I think we've got have we got a fire?
We've got
We've got a fire on one. So I've got to pull back on. Hang on, these are meant to be. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. Why would that one go forward?
Because they're locked here. If I push them forwards for you.
Yeah, thank you, trusty co-pilot.
So pull back on it.
I'm going to pull back on this, and I'm going to turn that. And what am I going to do?
Now pull back on.
I'm not going to make it. We're going down.
There you go.
Oh my God.
We're all good.
We're going to die. I'm sorry. We're going to die. It's mayhem in the cockpit. Hang on. So we're flying on two jets. Hang on. I'm pulling it back, but I pull it back. I've got to go forward, don't I? Yes.
It's still recording.
It's still recording.
Okay.
Don't worry. It's still recording this rubbish. Okay. So I'm going to go forward to go back. I'm pulling it back up. Oh, it's shaking. What does that mean?
It means your plane's in stall. You no longer have lift.
I'm stalling, or I'm just shaking it myself.
Well.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. Where's my radio? I don't have one. I've got to yell out. Ladies and gentlemen.
There's your radio.
Oh no, this is their mask. You need that to die.
Oh my God. It's full on.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen. I think we're right. I think we're okay. I think we're safe, everyone back there. The Lady Wang is going to make it. I can see Heathrow. Oh, no. Oh! That'll do.
That was so good.
We were safe.
Yeah, thank you for that.
That's all right. So you've got that. Now, that plane was built in 1979?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So built in 1979. And then it did service up until, and I couldn't believe this, 2002.
Yeah. So we received it on the 16th of November 2002, the 82nd birthday of Qantas, and it did its last commercial flight, I think about 5 days or so before we actually received the plane.
Well, the other member of Team Wang over there and we caught a 747-B200, which that is, in 1999, back from Bali, and I think it was our first overseas holiday together, and I got on board this plane and said, my God, this is old. I cannot believe Qantas is still running it. It could have been the Lady Wang that we actually boarded.
Maybe.
It's unbelievable.
$100 like your car?
Yeah, well, look, I would give you $500 for it.
Oh, okay. Well,
and
I won't tell any of the people here. But
and I'll throw in the original Wang.
Okay, so that's a good deal.
So it was donated by Qantas very generously, I might add.
Yeah.
And they flew it in, and the length of the runway, being 2 kilometres, was to the metre just enough.
Yeah.
And what you told me, they loaded up enough fuel to get it out to from Sydney to Longreach, and then get it back if they couldn't make it, if they had to abort the
Yeah.
landing. So they had one go at it.
Because they basically wanted to make it as light as possible. That was their thinking. So only putting enough fuel in it to get it from Sydney to Longreach, attempt a landing. If they thought they weren't going to make it, then have enough fuel to get it back. And that's when they would have scrapped it for $5.5 million or sold it off to another airline. But luckily, yeah, it did pull up.
Yeah.
Just
So
in time.
its commercial value is $5.5 million
Yeah.
in the state it's in now.
Yeah.
So having reached end of life.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but you told me an interesting thing. I was listening, Sarah. that Boeing say that is good for 2,000. Is it takeoff and liftoffs or just touchdowns?
20,000. So
20 sorry,
Boeing say
20,000.
20,000 landings, and then Qantas take off 1,000. They say 19,000.
90,000. So always with an eye to safety.
Yeah, yeah. Safest airline in Australia.
Safest
In the
airline
world. We'll just say that right now.
in the universe, I did add.
Yeah. Okay. Universe.
And out there is the bits of a wreck that happened in, I believe, 1934.
Yeah. So that was that DH.
You just go
Something.
the DH.
I don't do the hand
we just
tools, yeah.
pretend we've got an audio issue. The DH one,
Yeah, break
that's the
it
right
up.
one. Yes. And that was the first time they did an air crash investigation.
Was it?
Well, that's what they just told me.
Oh, if that's what Carissa said, then it's correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
they said, and they worked out it was some sort of a timber pin that would work the tail part.
Oh yeah. So they were using that wooden rudder, and they had a metal screw going into it. So after using it for so long, having the metal, wood doesn't really mix well together, then the wood started splitting, and then they weren't able to actually use the rudder to steer.
So long before the black box or anything like that, and it was Qantas, the guys that founded Qantas, that wanted to do the investigative forensic
Yeah.
investigation
Yeah, so
to figure out what had gone wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, and they figured that out, and they obviously fixed the issue. So they fixed the issue,
Yeah.
and it was really the very first air crash investigation conducted by Qantas. That may not be true, but just nod and let's.
Okay.
The very first. God, Qantas are good, aren't they?
They're so good. They're the best.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Mind fade. Qantas haven't lost a plane yet, have they?
No.
No. And the reason is that particular crash, it was being delivered and wasn't officially handed over to Qantas and wasn't sporting Qantas livery.
Oh yeah, no. In that sense, yeah, they have not.
Yeah, so it wasn't officially a Qantas plane. It was on its delivery run from the UK out to as being delivered to Brisbane, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and crashed. It crashed.
And they were about a month off starting their international travels.
Yeah, it was a month before Qantas was starting their first international route to Singapore, and it crashed a month before, which was bad timing. It crashed near Longreach, so it made it this far, but its final destination was to Brisbane.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, there we go. I remembered.
You've got a good memory. You know more than I do about this stuff.
Well, I'm taking a tour in 10 minutes, so I've got to be good. I've got to. You did. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I thought the cab would get me by.
Oh yeah, maybe. You've got your boarding passes.
Yeah, I do. They give you boarding passes when you come out to the museum. They give you boarding passes when you come out to the museum. So, it all started with the Model T, Sarah.
Yeah.
This car is what got Qantas off the ground, so to speak.
Yeah, you can say that.
You could say the most important Model T to ever come to Australia.
Yeah, let's just say that now.
Oh, well, let's put it out there. Look, I'll be honest. I can't think of a more important Model T. I can't think of many Model Ts. I know that a lot of people own them, but I can't think of important ones. But this one was important. Yeah. Sarah, you have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for taking me out on the 747.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Putting me on the wing.
Yeah.
And being the best co-pilot, I should add, that a bloke could ever ask for, because you really were nervous when I got behind the controls. Radio to the tower and said, we've got clearance. You thought they were joking when I started to push down on the throttle.
Yeah, I did, and then.
And I forgot it was a 4-engine, and I was only pushing 1 engine throttle.
Yeah.
Dangerous if I'm here. The rest of the time, though, come out to the Longreach Qantas Founders Museum. I always thought of it as Qantas Museum. It's been an ambition of mine to come out here for about 10 years. Finally got here. It's in the middle of bloody nowhere, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Sorry about that.
You know, if you put a pin on a map, put it right in the middle of Queensland, that's where Longreach is.
Basically.
Yeah, but it's well worth the effort. It is absolutely fantastic, and I think probably very important to the people in Longreach, because it's given them 2 nights accommodation. We're staying here specifically to come to this museum. And Sarah, thank you once again. It's been absolutely fantastic. Good on you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Bye. We're just going to do a demonstration of the horn. We're just going to do a demonstration of the horn. Hang on. Oh.